What's going on YouTube? We are back, Transatlantic Wrestling Talk with another review for you. I'm joined as always by my co-host Dale. How we doing, brother?
I'm doing great, my friend. I'm doing great. So I saw a little bit of Black Phone last night. It was pretty good, pretty decent as far as the film goes. I think we also should welcome our Facebook and Twitter and YouTube friends all around the world. You know, all four of them. Anyway, but yeah, no, I will say this: it's a beautiful, muggy Saturday here on Long Island, which actually is a good theme. Am I right? Because what did we watch yesterday, Andy? We watched Great American Bash 2008, and it took place in my backyard. And I was there for it.
I know. Just how many? Do you know? 14 years, mate. I was absolutely baffled when I realised how long ago it was.
Time goes so quick, doesn't it?
Oh, mate, like you just. Do you know what? Wrestling. I love me wrestling, as we all. That's why we're here. We always love wrestling. But when I go back and look at these things, it's like wrestling. Sometimes it upsets me when I go back and watch these old things. I don't realize how long time has passed.
I think that's the biggest takeaway from us doing these. I think we just look at everything in like this one big vacuum of time. And you and I, when we talk about Royal Rumble 1992, 30 years ago, we go to this. This is about 14 years ago in 2008. And you just scratch your head. You go, where did time go? And it's just a very interesting way to look at it. I think it's fun because this was in my own backyard, like I said, and there's a lot of different history there. And you'll see there's a lot of mentions of the Coliseum, which I didn't realize the history that the actual barn, that's what we used to call it, the barn was for wrestling. Would you guys have any idea what was significant about that venue, though? Like overseas? Yeah. Yeah. All you know is that it's on Long Island and it's in New York. That's basically it. It gets hammered home a lot, though, between Mick Foley being there and announcing. And then he's also talking about how it's an illustrious venue. And Jim Ross even says it's the first Saturday night main event. I had no idea about that. It was also one of 3 venues for WrestleMania 2, I believe.
Was it? Yeah.
Yeah, that's what they were saying. So, because they did this split. Yeah, so pretty interesting here. But Andy, take it away. Let's give us a little introduction and backstory to this.
Well, it was basically a time when they were looking on dabbling a little bit with WCW pay-per-views. Obviously, the Great American Bash was a WCW pay-per-view. And obviously, it come along with the rights to the names of which we see nowadays with Halloween Havoc and Great American Bash, where they do specials on NXT. But back in the day, they actually tried to do some pay-per-views with them, and I don't know why it didn't stick, really, because this was a solid pay-per-view, and Great American Bash, the concept of it was really good. Halloween Havoc's one that I've always scratched my head as why they haven't really carried on with that, but for whatever reason, they just decided not to. Why do you think they never did?
I don't know, but you brought up an excellent point several months ago when we were talking about what is the feature pay-per-view, what's the equivalent to WrestleMania for WCW, and we came to terms with booking wise, it would have been for long-term storytelling, it would have been Starrcade, but you drove it home and you said the best history was Halloween Havoc.
Yeah,
I do believe that nowadays you're not going to find those with the main roster, these WCW pay-per-views, only because I think that WWE is in a point where they're trying to create their own universe. Besides calling the fans the universe, I think they're trying to create it as their own product. And it's not just wrestling, it's comedy as well as bad comedy. It's drama. It's its own entertainment. It is a special caveat. And we've discussed that too. So that's why I think they're actually getting away from calling these regular wrestling events. But WCW, like you said, NXT is using these, and they're kind of make you, go, okay, that's interesting, because it's like It's not a pay-per-view, but it is. It's a special event. I like that feel. I know you like that feel. Everybody at WrestleBuddy does enjoy that too. And I think fans also like the fact that you could pinpoint, hey, Halloween Havoc 2021. I think that's something that we could all do.
Yeah, that's it, isn't it? Well, we'll go straight into the pay-per-view. Just before we do go into that, actually, just one thing I did want to mention is I was sitting there last night and I was thinking about this, and I don't know why it come into my head, but it did, and I really give it a lot of thought. And I was sitting there thinking about this premium live event thing, and I know people don't like it. I know people don't like the whole premium live event, but realistically, do you think by calling it a premium live event, it loses any kind of prestige?
When you get a credit card application in the mail or a special service, you want to hear the word premium. I understand the keyword. You understand the keyword because of what we do outside of this podcast. We do get paid for other jobs, by the way. Not very well, but no, it's okay. But I think the word premium is such a excellent way to make people feel like there's exclusivity in what they're being involved in or what they're partaking in, or taking part in. I think it's a brilliant idea, but linguistically, it's not catching on because we've been referring to them as pay-per-views.
But that's the thing is, though, but in WWE's defense on this is, and this was what was really getting me last night when I was thinking about it, but they're not pay-per-views anymore because you don't pay pay-per-view. And it's kind of like, so it's like boxing, for instance. You can turn around and say it's a boxing pay-per-view because they do still pay for the boxing. But even that's starting to die out now with obviously the likes of Dan's and things like that coming in. It's changing fast, and I think people have just got to get on board with it.
For sure, I think it's changing for the better.
Yeah.
I think people have no problem spending $120 per year. I mean, yeah, that's a tough pill to swallow once every 6 months or once a year. But look at the access that you're getting. And it's also part of, what do you call that type of access, though, Andy? You call that premier services. You call that premier access. So when they use the words premium, it falls in line with that.
That's it.
It's marketing. It's marketing. This is why they hired Nick Khan. Nick Khan is making this a company, not just a wrestling company.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the one, mate, isn't it? But we'll get straight into the pay-per-view anyway, because it still is a pay-per-view. Back in 2008 it was, wasn't it? Yeah. Yeah, it was.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay, so we've got first match on the card. We had Kurt Hawkins and Zack Ryder versus John Morrison and The Miz, who were the champions, Jesse and Fetus, and Finlay and Hornswoggle. Just one thing I want to say here, it shows you how far Hawkins and Ryder have come, because back here, they come out in the hometown and they were full of energy, giving it the beans, and no one cared.
No, I don't. I knew because I had friends in NYWC, the New York Wrestling Connection, which was a minor league circuit, I guess you could say. It was a wrestling school here. Kurt Hawkins would eventually open up Create a Pro, which is in Hicksville, not too far from me right now. The crowd didn't really know, except for me and my friends. And when they won, we go, holy shit. Because that's a big thing. And it was like, I'm not going to sit here and say it was a win for us. But it was just a very crazy moment, because it's just like, wow, look at these guys. These are the edgeheads.
Yeah.
I'm going to put just a couple notes from there. This was pretty chaotic. So the Major Brothers looked very young there. They've made themselves into quite an established tandem now. Not just talking about wrestling-wise, but here's that word again, marketing-wise. Look at what they've done for this industry. It makes us collectors actually like stuff. They're coming out with their own action figures. They're coming out with secondary lines of action figures for guys like Jeff Jarrett, Adam Bomb. It's a revitalization of collectibles.
Yeah, although I will say I don't like Zombie Sailor. I think he's a dick.
I don't know what happened last week with that. I think that's really weird what he would say. And we're not going to get too into it. But if you're a wrestling collector and you appreciate the Zombie Sailor figures, which they're flawless. That Sabu figure looks amazing. The Dino Bravo looks amazing. Earl Hebner looks fantastic. I think even the Cardona and Hawkins or whatever, those are great. But yeah, he just, I don't know what that was about with that email that he sent back to Ethan Page. Very interesting though, wasn't it?
I just didn't like him because I did a bit of an interaction with him on Instagram a while back over when the
Excuse me?
figures. I spoke to him on Instagram.
Can you tell me what happened?
Yeah, I asked him when they were coming out in the UK, and he turned around and was like, "Well, I don't know yet." I went, "Okay, that's fine." I said, "Do you think there'll be a chance they'll come in the UK?" And he goes, "Well, it's down to shipping costs and all." But he was just dead rude, do you know, when I was like kind of replying.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? What do you want me to do? Make less money and sell them in the UK than over here? And I was like, well, I'm not asking you that. Do you know, I'm only asking you, are you selling them in the UK? I'm not asking you, are you going to stop selling them in the US and sell them in the UK? Do you know what I mean? I just felt like he come across as a bit of a dick.
Sounds like a blanket statement because he kept getting asked that question. But you could be so nice because these are people that are paying for your product. It's not something we need. It's not like a utility bill. We could attest to that. So I wouldn't really go too. That's a little crazy if you ask me.
Yeah.
So
Well,
a couple of other things here. Miz and Morrison end up losing the titles. They're the champions. They're from ECW too, which was still a thing. The referee was from ECW as well, so that was kind of interesting. Big pop for Finley and Hornswoggle. Okay. And I'm also going to put out there, and you called him Fetus before. It's Festus. But
he looks like a fetus, though. That's the whole point.
He looks like a fetus now. I'm going to put this out here. I think that Finley really legitimately got hurt here because he got knocked in the head, and then Brian Myers ended up, or Kurt Hawkins ended up like kind of protecting him in the corner while still being very new to the business. You could see him actually protecting Finley in the corner, and Finley was kind of fighting back too. It was just very awkward. Jesse from Jesse and Festus was underrated with the moves he was doing. He was very unconventional with what he was doing. And I kind of like that. And let me put out there, he reminded me of a Jerry Lynn and Dean Malenko hybrid. If you're watching him.
Okay. Yeah,
I'll
take that.
Yeah.
I love the whole thing with him as well, where if the once the bell rang, he kind of like changed. Do you know what I mean? I really like that kind of aspect of it. I thought that was a good good aspect.
Yeah,
aspect should we say?
Worked it. No, it was it was a 4-way match. It was chaotic. Everybody was just in the ring at once. So I'm not a huge. I don't think you're a big fan of those either. But
no. I didn't think the right people won here either. I don't know why they. I mean, as you said, it might have been just hometown stuff, but I didn't really see the point in them winning it, and it didn't really give me anything.
The only thing that it does for hometown people is just give them that initial pop. It worked for Punk. It worked for Punk.
Yeah.
But I think, did you know that Vince McMahon really wants people to lose at home? I didn't know that.
Yeah.
But it's funny though.
Was it always he doesn't want them winning in their hometown? Which a lot of people don't go over, do they, in their own towns? But on this occasion, he did, and wasn't the right one in my eyes. But who am I?
But that just shows how much he didn't care about that title, right?
That's it, isn't it? But hey ho, Well, anyway, the Hawkins and Ryder get the win here. It'll start one of a number of tag team runs for them. But one thing I'll say with the pair of them two are a living proof of if you stay in the WWE too long and you just kind of flatten out, but then you can be better outside of it. Not every wrestler is a WWE style wrestler, and them two have gone out there and set the world on fire. And well done to both of them.
Yep. Yeah. Pat on the back for both. It was just that. I think that's what makes people more proud of it's a better side of the IWC. I guess you could consider that.
Yeah,
so
that's it. Well, anyway, we'll move on. We move on to a second match. We've got Shelton Benjamin versus Matt Hardy, who's champion for the United States Championship. Why did Shelton Benjamin never get to the world stage? Do you think it was just promo?
Yeah. I think that's why they also paired him with MVP later on in his life.
Yeah.
This match was great.
Yeah.
This match was great. And it just shows you have two crafty veterans. Matt Hardy can make anybody look good. He
can.
really can. And
Yeah.
Shelton Benjamin didn't need that, but boy, did they work well together in this match.
Yeah. Yeah, they did.
This is definitely one of the most sleeper matches I've ever seen live. And also, if I watch it back, take everything into consideration as far as, this was an event I went to. I remember watching this and tap my buddy on the shoulder while there and be like, yo, this is better. This is not just a Shelton Benjamin match. This is not just a mid-card match. Like, these guys are really putting themselves out there, kicking ass. It was, and we have Shelton going over, and that's the gold standard Shelton Benjamin at that point. So he lost his mom, not, it's just in a figurative sense. You remember when Shelton Benjamin had the whole Mama Benjamin thing?
Yeah.
He was on a winning streak too.
He was.
She would be on the outside. Oh, Shelton.
But yeah, I thought Shelton should have won this year, and I was just ashamed when I think back now and think he didn't go and kick on to the next level, because he, at this point, I think he still had the hopes of that for him, and for whatever reason, he just never pulled the trigger.
Yeah, do you really think they actually have long-term plans with that? I would definitely think that, if anything, they would have been like, here, give him an ECW title run.
I think they always had high hopes for Shelton, but for whatever reason, they didn't actually ever pull the trigger on it, and I just don't understand why. The only thing I can think of is promo skills, because if you look at guys at the top, that minus Mark Henry, they could always do a real good promo. And if they couldn't do a promo, it was because the character dictated that they didn't need to do a promo, where I think Shelton would have needed to, and maybe that was it.
I think this is the first one-on-one competition we've seen Shelton actually do and talk about on the show, because we always saw him with Haas.
Yeah,
Haas couldn't really break out of that, although he had funny gimmicks. We did Judgment Day 04, and he teamed with Rico, and it was really, like, we talked about how funny that whole concept was with Rico. But so they kept him in a tag team. Even when they did Ring of Honor, him and Shelton, Charlie Haas and Shelton Benjamin, it was a tag team, the world's greatest tag team. They're a phenomenal tag team. But then it was only stated that Shelton had this athleticism that was nobody could be paralleled with. And I think, like you said, how far does that push you if you don't have a microphone? So I agree. I think it is the fact that he just wasn't like one of those mic talker guys. But he definitely is liked in there because they brought him back. He's been featured, somewhat regularly.
He's being squashed as well at certain points. But no, I agree with you. I think Shelton's had a solid career. It's, because old as I have, he'd probably be a Hall of Famer one day.
He should be.
I think he will be. He's only always have to be at the top for that. But back here, he had the potential to go right to the top, and for whatever reason, it just didn't seem to happen. But we move on now. We've got Mark Henry with Tony Atlas versus Tommy Dreamer with Colin Delaney for the ECW Championship. Do you think Tommy Dreamer should have won this?
No. I think they were just like, here's an original. Oh, he's from New York. Let's throw him in there. And they just had this. They needed some sort of champion. I like the fact that they had Mark Henry as a champion in there because it does establish credibility. This will lead to his future run, I believe, with winning the title with Randy Orton. Like we said with Shelton, you could have given him that ECW title and see where he goes from there. And then they did the same thing with Mark Henry. So it's just a good formula, I guess you could say, for success. And, I'll get to the next person that they did that same exact formula with in a second. But I just think that somebody felt bad. And I think Tommy Dreamer's contract was a tax write-off for a loss.
Well, as you said there about having Mark Henry as champion and all that gave credibility, having Tommy Dreamer in an ECW product give it credibility straight off the bat.
Nothing was giving the ECW credibility, though.
I know, but you know what I mean, don't you? In their eyes, they'll look and think, well, having Tommy there would have give some kind of credibility. You know what I mean?
I think they could have had something, though, when they did that New Blood / old school ECW invasion, not invasion, but that angle where they had the 4 people. Who was that for? Elijah Burke, Kevin Thorne, Marcus Corvan, and Matt Striker.
Matt Striker, it was.
Against Sabu, Dreamer, Sandman, and Van Dam? No.
Yes.
Was it? I
believe so.
I don't think so, because I think that he was more involved in regular WWE stuff, because they were like, don't play with the old friends.
But anyway, he gets the win here, Mark Henry, because of it. A dumb interference by Colin Delaney, which just wasn't needed in this match at all. But, you know, Mark moves on with the title. Tommy gets protected for whatever reason. And that was it. Yeah.
Not much to be said about that.
No. And then we move on to the Awesome.
Well, I wanted to, hold on, before you said that, before that last match, I wanted to drive home something real quick, because they had a WWE Mobile interview with CM Punk. And this might have been the first time that CM Punk got a one-on-one interview. And for Vince McMahon to take out about 1.5 minutes or 2 minutes out of a pay-per-view to replay an interview that was done on the mobile app, it's either one of two things. They're driving home, use the mobile app because you have exclusive content, which isn't really true because they're putting that exclusive content back on TV. Or two, they know that CM Punk is that good. Punk's saying, you know what, Batista, you're bigger, better. I'm not 6'6", I'm not 300 pounds. I'm CM Punk. I'm not HBK. I'm not Bret Hart. This was a good freaking promo, man.
Yeah. He always had a great promo.
Yeah. Even today, I mean, the stuff that he says, every fucking thing this guy has said over the past 5 years has been true. Yeah. I don't like his opinion on stuff like Wrestler's Court is BS, because it's like, well, why don't you tell that to Undertaker?
Yeah.
No, he wouldn't do that. But
I think he's overrated.
Okay.
I like him. I think he's a great promo. But I also think The Miz is a good promo.
Well, that bingo hall comment to Daniel Bryan really got the juices flowing for a lot of people.
Yeah.
That was a great
are you telling me
point.
He's better than Daniel Bryan as in the ring and out and all the rest of it that goes on with it? You telling me he's better than Bret Hart, Shawn Michaels? Do you think he's in that conversation? I don't.
Punk?
I think he's good, but I don't think he's up that level. Don't think he's a Rushmore guy.
No, but he wouldn't consider himself that either.
Yeah.
I don't think.
I'm not shitting on him here, by the way. I think he's a really good, solid wrestler. It's just, is he right Mount Rushmore?
No. That Mount Rushmore, that's something that I have to really discover and think about. Might take me a couple days.
But I think Ric Flair's overrated as well.
Rick, would you think? Then you'd have to think Hogan's overrated, correct?
No, because I feel like the difference is Ric Flair goes on about how he carried the territories and he done all this. Hogan done it internationally for years and he brought in the mainstream audience and stuff like that. I don't think Flair done that. And I think that's why he struggled in WCW. Especially during the Nitro days and stuff like that. I don't think he was as big of a star as what he thought he was going to be.
Hold on. People made him bigger, though, because there was such a demand. I felt like they were in North Carolina every other fucking week. And all you heard were that crowd was hot for him.
But that's the thing is people say he's the greatest ever. But if you took Bret Hart to Montreal, you'd have the same thing. Or Quebec. If you took him to Canada as a country. Do you know what I mean? And I'm not trying to shit on Rick. I think Rick's brilliant. But I do feel like he's overrated.
Okay. All right. Who would you rather watch in a 15-minute match?
Mm-hmm.
Hogan or Ric Flair?
Oh, Ric Flair in the match wise, 100%. But the way Ric Flair goes on about being the draw, I don't think he was the same draw as Hogan. When he come in for his 92 run, 91, 92 run, did he change the game?
I believe so.
Interesting. More than
I,
what Hogan had? More than
I,
what Savage had?
yeah, and I'll tell you why. Look who they
Okay.
passed it over to. They changed the guard for probably for legal reasons. But remember, going into Brett was a big deal. That was a big freaking deal, man.
Yeah, I
And
understand
he
that, but Ric Flair is the wrestler, right? This is where you've got to try and differentiate. Ric Flair was a great wrestler. Is he as good as a wrestler as Bret Hart? No, he's not. Right? So he's not the greatest of all time as a wrestler, right? Because I'd rather watch Bret Hart. Bret Hart never just elevated himself; he elevated everyone around him, right? You
he
look at
elevated Bret Hart elevated the venue.
yeah,
He did. And people
you know,
probably wonder what
even
I mean
Shawn
by that.
Michaels. When Shawn Michaels wanted to work with you, as we'll discuss in a minute, he can elevate anyone as well. Uh, but Ric Flair as a draw, I don't believe he drew as much as what Hogan, Savage, people like that. I don't think he'd done any more than them. And that's why I'm saying, is he in the conversation? Yeah, but do I think he is what certain people try and make him out to be? No, he's not.
I think you're thinking of how over the past 25 years he's been more of a nostalgia factor when he was on TV. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, yeah.
That's like how in the mid 90s on Raw, they would have Ivan Putski come out there and I'd be like, I don't care who this is.
Yeah.
To
Don't
a
get me wrong,
lesser
I've
degree.
always cared about Flair, and I think he's reinvented himself so many times and he's done so well. But it's just when people say he's at the top of the thing, you know, because he was jumping around in the territory days, you know, it's like turning around and saying somebody was so good. You know, Macho Man played minor league baseball, and apparently he was really good, but he never made it to the majors. Do you know what I mean? And I'm not saying Mick Flair never made it to the major. What I'm trying to say is, just because in the territories when it was the in the NWA days and stuff, he was flying about doing all this, that, and the other, which was great. But on it, I don't think he translated into the national scene, into the worldwide scene as much as that.
Do you think it's because he did too many jobs?
No, I just don't think he was that. He wasn't that larger than life character.
He made enemies too.
Mm.
Let's face it, he made enemies, and there's a lot of different. I mean, we're not going to go into Dark Side of the Ring stuff, but when you talk about Ric Flair, you know that he was a racist to a lot of people.
Mm.
We can only speculate on that, but I think that he just rubbed people the wrong way. We're not going to talk
Yeah.
about Jim Herd wanting him to be Spartacus, but that's still not a good look.
No.
I'm just like I am a fan of Ric Flair, his accomplishments in the ring.
I'm a fan of Ric Flair. I really am a fan of Ric Flair. Love him, but that's just my opinion in terms of I don't think he's what everybody makes him out to be.
Yeah, I don't know. At one point, you and I can go over Mount Rushmore. It'll just take a really long time. It'll take a really long time.
We'll have to do a whole episode on that. But let's move on now. We move on to the best match on the night by far, which was Mr. Jericho Michaels. Oh, mate, just from the start, psychology and everything was just bob on for this. And it can, this is how you book a feud and make it continue for as long as what these two did, because they went right through until 2009 with this, didn't they? I believe.
Yeah. Yeah. I think you and I, when we did WrestleMania 19, which took place in 2003, they had a match then. Same concept. And here it is, how long afterwards, where they say, you know what, I still hate you. Jericho celebrating him and then does the nice thing where he says, you know what, I'm going to give you a compliment sandwich where I like you, but I don't like this about you, but you're okay. And then Shawn took, I guess you could say, he was upset by that.
Yeah.
And that's how it is on Raw. And then the Jumbotron or the Geritron 2000, 3000, whatever it was, that screen that he always had whenever he was doing his interviews, the Geritron 3000, I think it was called. Yeah, smashed Michaels into that, ends up going, after a low blow. It's a it's a very heated rivalry.
Do you know what set the tone for this match straight away was HBK's entrance? No fireworks, no pyro, no posing, no nothing, just focused walk.
Nope. Just looked right at him, came out for the match, didn't touch him before the bell, went
No.
nose to nose, and you go, you don't see this often from Shawn Michaels.
No, that's exactly what I was thinking. Like, you don't see this from Shawn, but on this, it's no, it was relative, wasn't it, to the whole storyline, and it was just brilliant from the start. As you say, you had that big match feel. It was, Shawn wasn't happy with this. Jericho, you could see him and the kind of glazed look he had in his eyes, but it was brilliant. And Jericho looked nervous when Shawn come in, so even Jericho played up that kind of he's not messing here kind of thing straight from the beginning.
Because he's brilliant. We've talked about how he's evolved over his life, over his career, even to this day. Whether you like his stuff or not right now, he's just going to find a way to adapt. And
he's a Rushmore guy. He's in the conversation.
I'd put him there. I'm not going to.
100%.
I'd put him there. And you could put him, he might not be on for certain eras. If you were to spread it out through decades, I wouldn't put him on for certain decades. But if you look at a body of work for his career for 30 years, 40, close to 40 years, geez, you could legitimately put him on there. And then you could make a case and argue with people. And they go, why is he on there? Well, let's take a look here. Besides being the first owner of the undisputed title, I mean, there's so many different reasons why you would do that.
Creator of Money in the Bank.
Yeah. And that match was fantastic. And he never won one of those, did he?
No, it's crazy that, isn't it?
Yeah. This shows, by the way, what the hell is the site? What Culture actually rated this match out of all the Great American Bash matches ever, and that includes from WCW years. This is ranked number 9 as one of the greatest matches out there.
Interesting.
Yeah. So that kind of surprised me a lot, actually, just for the fact that it's ranked so that far up there. Well, yes and no, especially for what we'd like to consider a throwaway match. But also on that list, as far as WWE matches go, there's the Texas Ball Rope match between JBL and Eddie Guerrero. So there is a few matches on there that... Exactly. So I'm not sitting there just being on top 10. Ric Flair versus Sting, world title, 1990 Great American Bash. So to be on that list, got to realize this type of pay-per-view, this Great American Bash, has a huge history outside of WWE.
Yeah, it does. I'll tell you one thing with this match that I loved as well, and it's something I put down on my note to you, was, do you know, in this match, the amount of wrestling interactions that was so convincing. So, like, there was one where Jericho comes at Michaels and he goes to throw a punch at him, and Michaels spins and
the clothesline
hip tosses him over the top rope, and it just did. There were certain bits like that. The clothesline was another one. It didn't look choreographed at all.
Nope.
It just looked like in the moment, and it was so flowy, and the whole. It was just brilliant.
We talked about it with Shelton and Matt Hardy, where they both elevated each other. It was a very pristine looking match. Same thing here, Andy. Pristine looking. They telegraphed each other's moves, but to help the other one succeed with the execution of that move. I'm watching Jericho do things like smear the blood off Michaels' face after he gets blades himself. I had to go over the concept of blading with Jess, because she saw, once again, she walks in during these opportunistic times where there's blood, it's just gruesome, and she goes, what happened? And I go, he bladed. What's that? So I had to tell her what blading was.
To explain to her.
And she goes, wait, what? Where did they hide it? And I'm like, oh, it could be here again.
Anyway. We was explaining it here, guys, but I'm sure if you're watching us, then it's because you already know what blading is, so there's no point. But yeah, Jericho gets the win here. Very, very good finish. Little bit with the logical stuff, because the referee's counting him for punching him in the head. So he could have really disqualified Jericho there, but I do like the way they finished this off, as in Shawn didn't quit. Jericho was ruthless, and it furthers the feud going forwards. And obviously Jericho won by a referee technical stoppage.
It was a hush over the crowd because we have never seen it. I've never seen it live. I don't think how often do you see that on TV? Maybe once every 3, 4, 5 years.
Yeah.
So for a pay-per-view match to all of a sudden end like that, that's crazy. A TKO. Yeah. We forgot to point out that Lance Cade was kind of like a disciple for Jericho.
Yeah.
And that's a guy that had a career that, he was with Trevor Murdoch for years and as good tag teams. Just a very
and he was trained by Shawn Michaels.
Yep. And that adds to the story here. And you know what? I will say this. One of the nicest wrestlers I've ever met in my life.
Yeah.
He's just a spot-on dude. He was the only guy I ever saw that was making sure that he was smiling for every single picture. Was that Pharrell? Who was that?
Mr. Brightside. It's my phone. I haven't put it on silence. I apologize.
Mr. Brightside by the Killers?
No, not Mr. Brightside. Mr. Blue Sky by Electric Light Orchestra.
That's cute. Yeah. That's a good one. ELO is good.
Yeah. But I say the one thing I loved on this as well was at the end when Jericho was standing at the end of the Titans run, and it's just a look on his face and stuff. It's like he looks like what have I done, but at the same time, like do you know what I mean? He kind of gets that right balance, doesn't he, between what have I done here and showing a bit of humanity, and then kind of flipping it as in like he's evil. Joe, really, really good work by Jericho. That
it's called Heat Seeker. And he knew it. He knew the longer he stood out there, the more heat he'd get, because you'd hear the echo of boos.
Well, next we had the inaugural WWE Divas Championship match, and we had Michelle McCool defeat some jobber in 4 minutes 14 seconds to win the title.
Did Natty get any work done?
She could do a little bit.
Yeah, I was looking and I was just like, wow, she looks totally different here.
Yeah. She looks like a totally different person, but it was lovely how WWE had to get in about 3 or 4 times that she was Jim the Anvil Knight Earl's daughter. My God.
Nepotism at its finest again.
Yeah, she's still doing that now. She's made a career out of it.
Yeah, well, I'd rather make a career out of her sister and watching her.
Well, anyway, yeah.
The best part of that match was the ending, where as Michelle McCool is celebrating with that horrendous looking title, Jericho is at the top of the stage with the microphone. And what does he say, Andy, to the crowd?
I've just come from the trainer's room. Breaking news announcement. I've just come from the trainer's room, which I don't know where these trainers are like doctors, but anyway, no, that's another story. We'll let that go because it was so good. He has a detached retina. This is the end of his career.
Smiling.
Yeah. Shut up, Michelle. I don't care what title you've just won. Bye.
Oh, he legitimately buried a brand new title within a minute. That's like, you know what that's like? That's like when Jeff Jarrett beat Barry Windham for the NWA North American title on Raw, and Austin came out to stun Jeff Jarrett back in 97 or 98. This was the equivalent of that. Like, it's almost like Kanye West coming out while Taylor Swift's accepting an award. Saying how Beyonce's was better. Brilliant. But Jericho just with that smug look on his face. I would say he's probably the MVP of that night.
He really was. He was brilliant. And it just shows you sometimes with Jericho, they always say, didn't they, if he wasn't top of the shop, he'd make it feel like he was the most important person on the card, and he 100% did, yeah. So,
yes.
Kudos to him.
Yes. And this is with just coming out, shitting on a brand new title, and then going back
well, we'll move on anyway. So we'll move on to the CM Punk vs Batista match. I thought the build up to this match was done better than the actual match. Loved the way it went. Batista comes out and power bombs Edge and stuff, and then CM Punk sneaks out the opportunist, wins the title, and then obviously that leads us to this match. The match itself, not a bad match, but the finish with Kane just.
I knew that it would happen too, because I watched Raw the weekend, obviously the few days prior, and I remember watching it and just be like, "Ugh, why is this going to happen?" Because Kane was just on that path to destruction again, which they didn't really elaborate on while you're at the venue itself, or there was no packages for. But why would they be? Because he wasn't wrestling a match, so they're not just gonna be like, "Oh yeah." It's not like Al Snow backstage with Head talking about how he's hearing things. That's not anything episodic, really, or just a funny segment. They're not going to talk about Kane, but you knew some crap was going to happen. That was my favorite cash-in, by the way.
Yeah.
Because I think that Punk, nobody really knew that he was going to do that, especially after Edge comes out there, talks crap about Batista. Batista comes out on Raw, beats the crap out of Edge. Then all of a sudden, Punk's music hits. Everybody knows what's going on with the Money in the Bank, and people get, that's when there was a lot more stun and shock with the announcers saying, "Wait, what? What?" Now it's just almost expected, like somebody's gonna, especially with the men and women's. I'm not gonna get into, Money in the Banks now because I hate them. I think they're awful. Because they're awful. You mean to tell me that you appreciate the teases of guys coming out there with, "Oh, look, remember I'm still here." Stop.
No, I haven't liked the last couple of years, but I did like Liv's one. Thought Liv's was really good because it was just done and dusted, and it also created a new star. We'll have to, the jury's out on a Theory to see where he comes now.
Theory's going to be incredible, but there's so many different ways to do it. Yours, whatever. Anyway, so going back to here, Punk cashes in. Batista says, "You know what? You got one over on me, big guy," because he doesn't take him as a threat. I think that's a good storytelling line right there, and that's why he had the promo before. We talked about how the ECW title was almost a litmus test for the WWE title or the World Heavyweight title. Same thing here, right? I mean, Punk won it. Punk was an established person, ended up losing the title. I forget how he lost the ECW title, but it's the ECW title. Who cares? Ends up winning this. I like the match only for the fact that he's catching Batista by surprise with the kicks.
Yeah.
It just shows that Punk is able to wrestle a lot of different styles with a lot of different guys. I'll never sit here and say I was not ever a Batista fan. Was it watered down after a while? Sure, but that's everybody. They all go stale, I think, at some point. I enjoyed Batista. I enjoyed Batista's work. He looks so much younger here, even if he was without hair. Drax the Destroyer is one of my favorites ever, so I can't ever crap on that. But like you said, the ending sucked. The double disqualification was terrible. It doesn't really lead to anything. All it does is just throw a monkey wrench into it. Remember how WrestleMania 20, all of a sudden you just had HBK insert himself, but with the story of, "I have unsettled business with Triple H." All right, that made sense. Now it's just, "Hey, I don't like both these guys. I'm Kane, so I'm just going to be Destructor, and I have a mask in my bag."
That's why they're going, "Oh my God, look at the way he's talking to the camera before he comes out." Bored off. But,
yeah.
Oh well.
Yeah.
Right, so we move on to our next one. Obviously, double disqualification. It should have been a disqualification against Punk, really, because Kane hit Batista first, so makes sense.
Bad
Doesn't it?
reffing.
That's the normal way it goes. But then we
Bad
had
reffing.
JBL versus John Cena. I really enjoyed this match. I am not a fan of Backstreet Bros. I've seen a lot of bad ones in my time and stuff like that, but I really enjoyed this match.
I agree. And it just goes to show you what they are now, what WWE is now. A lot of the post production was done because anybody that sits there and says, "Oh, that was done live," they are off their rockers. You could just take a look at the debris and perspiration on JBL's shirt, that it was dried up. So they filmed it. By the way, those are not cheap pants that he was wearing. And
No,
that's not a cheap shirt. And the cowboy boots, too. I could not even think about wrestling in cowboy boots.
not a chance.
No. But just what they did here, it was just kind of funny how they're banging back and forth. That's not Mr. Bright Eyes.
No, sorry, that was the new. I need to turn his phone bloody down. Sorry about this.
Dun-dun-dun. That's all right. Andy has a life outside of here. Me, I hide underneath my bed until Saturdays come. I like the fact that JBL goes to light the car on fire as if it will have any impact on Cena inside the car. It's just interesting. I'm not sure exactly what part of the building they actually did that. And by the way, for people that want to know if everything is geographically correct, it is not. New York City is not even close really to the Nassau Coliseum. So when they call this a New York City street fight, it's not, because there's no street. They're inside a parking garage, and they're about 30 miles away from, let's see, they're several miles away from Manhattan. Okay. So it's not like you just go up the block, or it's a stone's throw away.
Well, the one thing I did like in this match is straight away was the bit where Cena's banging his head off the steering wheel and it's well, that was really good. But as far as them gimmick matches go, they're not always the best, but that one was really good and I really enjoyed it. So I've got nothing bad to say about this one, I'll be
Good
honest.
finish. Good finish. Yeah. Bring him out on the forklift, right? And JBL comes out, and they go to do the FU. JBL comes out. It's just showing, hey, I don't need a high impact move really to kill him. Is it a shocking move when you throw him on the glass? Yeah. But that just goes to show you, John's like, I'm done. I'm exhausted from this. So that's how you win. It's not like the one move.
Yeah.
You know.
So he didn't have got a bad cut though, Cena, didn't he?
Yeah, he was looking at that. He was like inspecting that, just making sure like everything's okay. But again, we're driving it home here because you have a lot of different announcers. You have Cole and Taz, right? Mm-hmm. You have Ross and Foley, and I'm trying to think who was for the ECW commentary team. Mike Adamle.
Mike Adamle, wasn't it?
And you remember when Royal Rumble earlier that year, when Jeff Hardy came out and he called him Jeff Harvey?
Yeah.
So I'm trying to think who was on the commentary team. It could have been, you know what? It could have been Stryker.
Yeah, it was Mike Adamle and Taz. It was.
Well, who was for who was for SmackDown then?
SmackDown was Jim Ross and and Mick Foley. And Michael Cole and Jerry Lawler were Raw.
There you go. Okay, so I'm mixing it up. That's when the drafts. That's when the drafts actually mixed up the teams, right?
Yeah. Well, we'll move on to the main event anyway. We've got Triple H versus Edge in a battle of the best theme songs.
I agree. I agree. I was rocking out. I was rocking out as soon as you heard it.
Love it.
Yeah. I mean, let's go to the backstory here. Vicky Guerrero, which I'm shocked that she was actually willing to do this, was getting married to Edge. Edge is, and great recaps here. Funny recaps. This is actually, and we've talked about how unfunny Triple H was. He was great with comedy here.
Yeah, I mean, he can be funny, Triple H. It just depends with him sometimes.
Yeah, it's more slapstick, but when he was at the top, when they show what happened in the SmackDown prior, and I didn't watch the SmackDown prior, so this was all new to me. So for me to pick up on the wedding, and the gifts that he had between the sledgehammer, by the way, shout out to Bam Neely being on stage there, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah. La Familia, was that who it was? You had Hawkins and Ryder, Chavo Guerrero, Bam Neely, and Vicky Guerrero, and Alicia Fox. This was the introduction of Alicia Fox.
Yeah. Fucking baby.
So as the wedding planning is going on, the trapezoid of Edge, which is not a real part for all our younger viewers, was hurting him. So he needed a massage from Alicia Fox. And Alicia was very willing to do so. And then also willing to give Edge's nether region a mouth hug, I guess you could say.
Mm-hmm.
So
typical Vince McMahon.
yeah. The crowd, they'll really drive it home. They'll never know it's me. 14 years later.
But the match itself was really good. Again, wasn't a fan of the finish.
If you're going to double and overbook something, this was fine. You knew it was going to happen. The problem is that when you start, as a crowd member, when you start looking at the entrance, that's the issue.
I think also the thing for me that was annoying was the fact of, because we'd already seen the kind of screw finish with Punk Batista. I think that's what annoyed me, that he'd done 2 of them.
Yeah.
You
But
know.
the difference is this had a pinfall.
Yeah.
No, and we're not gonna. I think we haven't sold it enough. The work on these two, I don't remember them really going head to head ever before this.
I think both of these are very. I mean, Edge probably not as much now, but Triple H was always underrated as a worker. Everybody always used to go, "Oh, so good."
Theme of the night, pristine work rate for both of these guys too. We saw it with a few matches: Jericho, Michaels, Matt Hardy, and Shelton Benjamin. Here's another one where they're both elevating each other. I think it's like 10 years past when they were really like, between the Attitude Era and at that point, 2008. And they're like, wait a minute, I don't think we ever worked with each other. Because I don't remember that. Do you?
No.
And here it is. They took the chance to do this, and they drove home the fact that let's have a good fucking match together. And they did.
Yeah, didn't he?
Take away the screwy finish and everything like that. It's still, it was a fun match.
Oh, well,
So the ending is Alicia Fox comes out, wants to help Edge, grabs the title. Vicky Guerrero comes out, hits her with the worst forearm I've ever seen. Okay. Actually, no, the worst forearm I've ever seen is a 5-knuckle shuffle that actually hits the wrist, but that's another story. But then Vicky gets in the ring, wants to fight Edge. Alicia Fox comes in. Ref breaks him up. Ref is somehow holding onto Alicia Fox. Behind him is Vicky Guerrero. Edge then goes for the spear, hits Vicky. I will say this. One of the loudest oh shit moments I've ever been a part of.
Yeah.
That got loud. That's loud.
Interesting.
Yeah, it was weird. And then all of a sudden, everybody knew, and Edge knows how to sell with his face. Edge could sit there and stare, and he could make it better TV than Tony Khan's performers.
Yeah.
Moxley bleeding does a lot more. Hello, sir. How are you, John? Moxley bleeding gives less emotion than Edge after he spears his own wife and just stares at her. Isn't that crazy?
That's it.
Triple H then gets the pedigree on him. 1, 2, 3. And we got ourselves a nice little go home. Crowd's happy at that point too.
But probably they may just say thank you to me dad for the new earphones. He got us some new headphones.
Dude, he's John. He's looking spiffy with those things.
But so overall on this event, then what would you give it?
A take out of the equation that I was actually at the event, I'm going to give it a 6. I think it's actually worth watching. I hate the I hate the finishes as far as CM Punk Batista. I think it wouldn't have really hurt anybody if somebody got pinned. I think it was too close for that reign to be over for Punk because the WWE said, you know what, let's give him the ball and have him run with it. He had a great promo that you saw on here too. Jericho and HBK was a phenomenal storytelling event, and it wasn't the ending of their rivalry. So this is like a pillar that actually holds up the rivalry and just says, look, there's more to be told for this story. Shelton Benjamin, Matt Hardy, great match. Underrated for 2 quote-unquote mid-carders. Excellent stuff. I'm going to give I'm going to give it some points there. Opener, Finley got over. It was a smash. It was what it was. I didn't think you really needed the hometown guys to win in that one. But what did you give the pay-per-view overall?
I'm going to give it the same 6. I think it was really, really solid. There was certain parts in it where I was like, but Definitely for me. This one was the Jericho match. I thought the street fight was fun. The main event was really good. Punk versus Batista was good until the finish. So yeah, I'd say 6, definitely.
Nice. Caveat to this, in a very interesting side note, and this actually made the dirt sheet news, I guess you could say, just prior to that. Ultimate Warrior was signing autographs in the hotel across the parking lot.
Yeah.
He was not affiliated with WWE at the time. I believe he would shortly after have that match with Orlando Jordan in like Puerto Rico or something,
Yeah.
or Spain. Ultimate Warrior, we went there. I did not pay. I walked over to him, and I was about 8 feet away from him. He was a massive man. He had the same coat that he wore in WCW too. But I will say the one privilege to it, because he was just arrogant, and you could tell he was just using the WWE name to get people in. And it was a mob scene there. I was close. I was not getting anything paid. I will say the yellow Intercontinental title was there.
Yeah.
It was his own, and holy shit. Andy, one of my favorite titles ever.
Oh, it's beautiful, mate. Beautiful.
It was a gorgeous belt, dude. Gorgeous freaking belt. Yep. So would you say it was a failure of a pay-per-view?
No, I'd say it was a really good pay-per-view.
Good. See, you thought you were so scared, weren't you?
Yeah,
you
I thought you were going to be mean.
Yeah, yeah. I'm not gonna steer you that way.
Yeah, maybe one. That's once bitten, twice as shy.
Oh, were you a Great White fan?
I was not.
Okay, we have a shark problem on Long Island now. People are getting
I've seen
attacked
that,
yeah, we're getting attacked by
got
sharks.
bit the other day.
Yeah, and they're wondering why. And I say, it's their fucking home. Don't go in the goddamn water. Idiots.
Well, okay, so I'm going to pick my one for us now.
Oh, boy. Here we go.
I am going to go for Money in the Bank.
Come on.
2010.
All right, we have beaten the threshold, guys. We have officially gone into 2010. I do believe this is the latest pay-per-view you and I have discussed.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, you want to be thinking that I'm being nice, mate, because I was going to go for Money in the Bank 2020.
I would have killed you. Oh my god, I would have. No, is that when they're in the building? Yeah, that's when they're in the office.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't do that. We've got to have at least a 5-year buffer, I believe.
I think 10-year buffer.
No, 5's fine.
Look, dude, we're historians. We are historians. There's nothing historic about 5 years ago.
All right, I'll let you off.
I like the 2010. All right, we'll do Money in the Bank 2010. And then,
2010.
If you don't hear from me, there's a reason.
All right, guys. Well, thanks for watching. We appreciate every one of you for watching. We are getting some good views at the moment, and we're getting a lot of duration of views as well. So we appreciate everybody for watching. And me and Dale will be back at the same time, at the same place next week. But from us, for now, goodbye.
Money in the Bank. Show them what you think.